Hello and welcome to the Ringside Review. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Michael Vukojevic today. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem at all. Are you enjoying the spring weather today?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I was talking to some family back home and they still have snow on the ground. So, I went for a walk today in shorts. So it's a little bit of a difference from back home. And I'm really enjoying the nice weather.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one who's in shorts and a t-shirt already. It's above sort of 16, 17. It felt, I don't know if it was around that. And to me, it just feels like tropical being from England, I think.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely getting a lot warmer a lot sooner than back home. So it's really enjoying it. And it's a good thing. I mean, no one likes to be in the snow and get happier in the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a new face to the Extraliga. Can you start by describing your playing style to us?
I think for me, I'm a big mobile defenseman. I can defend very well, and I can also contribute offensively and make plays. And kind of a deceptive offensive game where it's not going to be a highlight reel, but making a good play and headmanning the puck and bringing good shots from the point and bringing a physical side of my game as well. Just being kind of meat and potatoes in the D zone and boxing out, hitting guys, finishing checks, kind of things like that.
Yeah, perfect. And can you describe how you first got interested in hockey?
I think for me, I had an older brother who's 4 years older than me. I still have an older brother who's 4 years older than me. He played hockey and he was kind of my role model growing up. Always looked up to him and he played. And I remember he used to always put on his hockey equipment. And even though it didn't fit, I kind of wanted to be a hockey player like him. And I think my parents kind of took notice of that and signed me up for hockey. And I just fell in love with it ever since. And I've loved it since then.
Yeah, and you mentioned your parents. They're originally from Croatia, right?
Yes, yeah, both my parents are from Croatia.
Do they have like any kind of background in hockey, or is that something that came just from being in Canada?
No, nobody really in my family played hockey. My dad was born in Croatia, and my mom, her parents came just a few years before she was born. So there was no hockey in Croatia back then. And then
Mhm.
growing up, they never played hockey. So, but they watched a lot, especially my dad. He watched a lot of hockey growing up in Toronto, living there.
Mhm.
So he really enjoyed watching the game, and I think for him, when he had kids, he wanted to give them the opportunity of being able to play hockey. And I'm very fortunate and thankful that my parents did that.
Who are some of your biggest influences or role models when you were first starting out in those days?
I think getting into it was my brother. Just
Mhm.
having an older brother, you always look up to them and kind of want to be like them. So I think he was who really got me into it. And then just growing up in just outside of Toronto, would always be the Leaf guys like Phaneuf and Jake Garner being defenseman. I was always a defenseman, so kind of guys like that where, and I would watch them on the TV when I was a kid, and even before those guys, Czech guy, what's his name, Caberlet,
Yeah.
guys like that. Just watching the Leafs as a young kid and growing up wanting to, dreamt of putting on the Leafs jersey as a kid.
And so you've always been drawn to playing in defense because I've had some other guests on here who started off as like centers or they kind of mixed it up, but you've always been focused on being a D man.
I just, as long as I can remember back, I've always been a defenseman, and that's what I played. I never really played forward, so just kind of watched the D man because that's who I was and that's who I wanted to be like.
So what are some of your earliest memories of playing organized hockey?
My earliest memories have been I played for the West Mall Lightning. We had when we were 5 years old, we had I think it was 4 or 5 D men and 6 forwards, and we were just like 5-year-old kids. We played against the 6-year-olds, and we were just it was so much fun because I mean at that age those are your best friends, and going to the rink not every day, but when you go to the rink it was a nice escape, and you could just go and play hockey and play on the big ice, and it was really fun. And then my another one would be playing in the Brick in Edmonton.
Okay.
As a 10-year-old kid, you're living in a mall with a theme park for 10 days playing hockey. I mean, does it get much better than that?
No, no, that sounds great. And you must cherish those memories.
Yeah, yeah, that was a great time. I mean, like I said, 10 years old living in a mall with an amusement park, a movie theater, and mini putt, and you get to play hockey while this is all happening. It was pretty awesome.
Sounds like a great, great childhood.
Yeah.
And your first kind of noted junior hockey on that I could find on Elite Prospects was when you played for Mississauga Rebels.
Mhm.
And what are the like key things that you learned from playing with them?
Just, I mean, our coach with the Rebels was Paul Jackson. He played pro hockey for a while, and he just taught us so many like great lessons about what it means to be a hockey player. That when he was a pro, like kids look up to him, and one day you're going to be the people that you're going to be the person that kids look up to. So just always like conducting yourself as a professional even before you were a professional, and just always enjoying the game of hockey. And as soon as you don't love it, you can't play it, because you got to love what you do and do what you love.
I think that's great advice. Is that something that stayed with you throughout your career?
I think so. I mean, I enjoy going to the rink every day, and being able to chop it up with the guys, and go put your gear on and go play hockey and play basically play a kid's game. The game you played since you were a young kid, and that you fell in love with, and you play it as because it's enjoyable, and you love it. You can do a lot of other things, and there's other jobs that people do that maybe they don't love as much. So to cherish the time that you have playing the game, and I think that's something that sticks with me, is that I get to play a kid's game for a living right now.
Yeah, that really, really perfect. Really nice to hear that. And your love of hockey then took you to Georgetown.
Yes,
So you joined them quite late in the season before the playoffs. What kind of
right.
sparked that move?
So that was after our minor midget year, our 15-year-old year. Before the OHL draft, I was an AP for them. So after our season ended and high school hockey ended, I was able
Mhm.
to go play with them as an underager, and finish the year there. Just as after the club season had ended, I went to go AP for the junior team as an underager. So, and then we ended up winning a championship, which is really cool.
Yeah, and that must have been great to taste success so soon after
Mhm.
moving there. And
Yeah,
how was that playoff run?
it was awesome. I mean, as a 15-year-old kid playing junior hockey, it was pretty cool. And then winning, I was thinking, wow, this is easy. I mean, you're gonna win it every year. Yeah. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. But it was awesome just being able to get that kind of experience before the OHL and USHL drafts, to be able to go play junior hockey and play against some older players, because it was up to 20 years old as an overager, and I was 15, to get that exposure and kind of get a taste of what junior hockey would be like for the coming years.
And a very special name pops out from that list of players in the Georgetown playoff roster. You probably know where this is going.
Yeah.
He's a guy that you'd go on to cross paths with later in your career too. So Jack Hughes, what was it like playing with a player of that caliber at that time?
Yeah, I mean, we actually played baseball together for years before that, and then just being able to always playing against him, and then being able to play with him. I mean, he's been the kind of player he is for probably his whole life, where he's been just being able to dominate wherever he plays, and it's no shock that he's continuing to do that in his career in Jersey.
Yeah, he was excellent when I went to watch the global series in Prague, and he was one of the guys that just, you see them on TV, but when you see him like in person, the way he moves, just everything about his game, it was you get the feeling that you're witnessing something special.
100%. I mean, they call him game changers, and he's a guy that can, change a game. And unfortunately, I just saw he had shoulder surgery, so he'll be done for the year, which is very unfortunate for him and the Devils. But I mean, what a player, and an even better guy. He's great around the locker room, and away from the rink. So he's a hell of a player, and a great person as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that is what the photo was of the other day that
Okay.
Mountfield posted. It was a picture of I think you when you were playing baseball with him. So,
Right. Probably in Cooperstown at a baseball tournament with the travel team. Yeah. I
and
think I
was
know
he
what you're
was he a
talking about.
handy baseball player too?
Oh yeah, yeah. We had a pretty good baseball team. We had at the time it was the hockey team that decided to play baseball. We're a little bit like the Bad News Bears. But we had a good time, and that was a fun tournament. He's a good player too in baseball. He could fly.
Yeah, and I'm sure I speak for both of us when I say that we wish him all the best because he was on to something really pretty good this year. He was going at a rate of production that we know that he can do, and we can hope that this shoulder surgery just kind of fuels him to want to come back even stronger. I think he left a message on Instagram basically saying as such, and I've got no doubt we'll see him dominate the NHL for years to come.
Yeah, I 100% there with you. I mean, it's just a setback, I think, and knowing him and his drive that he can overcome it and get back to where he was and even better. And like you said, wishing for a speedy recovery. In our prayers.
And there's a British link with one of the names on that roster from Georgetown. Not quite as world renowned as Jack Hughes, but he is, I mean, he deserves respect because he's doing some really great things in Guildford. Is Jack Jacko?
Oh yeah,
So he came up big for you in the playoffs. What was it
yeah,
like
he was.
to play with him?
Yeah, when I got there, he was. I think he was the leading scorer of the team that year too. But just smaller guy, but could handle a puck like nobody else, and he was great. I mean, especially me being an underager, and he kind of understood what it was like. So he was really looking out for us and just kind of taking us under his wing and kind of just giving us advice and guiding us in the right direction. And what a player! And I know he had a good career in college at Clarkson, I believe. And then I didn't know he was playing in England now, but I mean he's a good player and he's a great guy as well.
Yeah, he's doing really well in the Elite League, actually, in the UK. I think he's, if memory serves me correctly off the top of my head, he's about the third leading scorer on the team in Guildford. But when you watch them play, he's like really, really key to all of like not only the things that stand out at the forefront, but he's also very good at the little things that knit everything together in
Right.
the interim. So great. And the next step for your career was Green Bay. So you were actually drafted into the USHL, but also the OHL in the same summer. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So the OHL is the junior league in Ontario, and then the USHL is junior league throughout the US, where
Hmm.
you can maintain college eligibility.
Yep.
So I was drafted into both leagues and was originally going to go play at the University of Michigan, but halfway through that first year in Green Bay, talked with my family and an agent, decided to go play in the OHL and play for Kitchener, who had drafted me, and both great organizations in Green Bay and in Kitchener, where I spent a lot of time in Kitchener, and it was awesome for me and being able to go play junior hockey and play with some great players and really develop as a player and a person and move away from home and really mature. So it was a great step for me, and I loved every second of it.
I've got a question actually that was sent in by a friend of mine. He's a massive Devils fan, and it's actually relating to this topic. His name's Daniel Rebane, and I'll give a shout out to his podcast, The Puck on the Parkway. He said, with the new rules that allow CHL players to go to the NCAA, how do you think that will impact the two leagues? And if you were to go to the college route, was there a school that you would have liked to go to growing up? I think you've answered it partially
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, I think the new rule change is awesome, especially for these players that are going into the OHL. I know if you sign a professional deal, you can't go to college, but it's a great option for everybody that if they choose not to go pro right after the OHL, they can go play at school and
Mhm.
get that college experience and that college hockey experience and then go pro after. I think it's an awesome route, and I think it was a long time coming, and I hope that players take advantage of this new opportunity and this new route you can take where you can go play in the CHL for a few years and then go play college hockey, and I think it'll develop a lot of hockey players in a better way that they would have without it, where you can go play in both leagues and develop in different kind of scenarios and different schedules and just round out your game. And I think it's an awesome thing. And for school, I would have went to Michigan. I was committed there, but obviously ended up in the OHL and um, plans changed and looking forward.
Yeah, and how was the on the ice? Did you notice a difference between like the USHL and the OHL?
I think for me, I mean, the travel was a big thing that I noticed that the OHL was a lot less travel,
Hmm.
just being teams a lot closer and being in Kitchener was very central compared to where the other teams were. And then just, I think both are great leagues and, players come from both leagues and go on to, play pro and across the board in Europe and the NHL and AHL and stuff like that. But for me, it was just the biggest thing I noticed was like for one, the travel, and then just being able to, play. I think that was a big thing for me was as a 16-year-old being able to play and develop. And I was lucky enough to play for Jay McKee and Dennis Weidman, two NHL, almost 1,000 games between, but for both of them. And
Yeah.
so it was awesome for me to develop and learn from those guys on a daily basis. And they really helped my game and prepared me for pro hockey.
Yeah, and you really quickly established yourself as an important member of the Kitchener decor, and you came up big for them in the playoffs with 10 points. Did the team suit your style of play?
Yeah, I think for me, we had a great team that year. If you look at the roster, we had a lot of players that, went on to play in the NHL and play pro and did great things in the OHL as well. So, I mean, we had a really good team. I mean, I think we could have gone all the way and
Mhm.
unfortunately didn't in game seven of the semis. But I mean, just being able to play with those players at 16 was kind of eye-opening and that pretty confidence building, just knowing that at 16 you could play with these guys and do well and achieve something and get playing, and play and produce. So I think that for me was a big step.
Yeah, and one of your teammates there was your current teammate now in Hradec Králové, Connor Bunnaman. So was he
Yeah.
a strong factor in why you decided to come to Hradec?
So it's funny enough. So we played in Kitchener. He was the captain there my first year before he went to go play pro. And then we work out in the summers together, actually, and skate together. And then for this year, we had been in contact a lot playing video games because we're both in Europe in the same time zone. So then when the opportunity or came about to, come play for Mountfield, I was talking to him and asking him for a lot of advice, and he said nothing but great things. And so, it definitely made it a lot easier to transition and come here knowing I knew somebody, somebody I, had talked to a lot this year and in the summers working out together. So it was very nice to have him and make that transition a lot smoother.
Yeah, and you're a video game fan. What do you like to play?
So we play Call of Duty.
Okay.
Play a little bit of Call of Duty. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Alex Linton-Yemi from Mladá Boleslav on for an interview, and he's a massive gamer and he loves football. He's really into FIFA, and we did like a football quiz at the end. So like it seems to be like a kind of popular way to spend your downtime.
Yeah, it's nice because especially for me being from North America, the time change. So
Mm,
a lot of the times, friends and family back home isn't awake until 3 p.m. 2 3 p.m. So for the mornings, especially on days off, like it's an easy way to kill time and enjoy doing something in the meantime. But with this weather, I haven't really played much. I've been kind of
yeah.
outside enjoying it and kind of living that Euro lifestyle of grabbing a coffee and sitting outside and just enjoying the weather and soaking up the sun.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds great. It's gone
Mhm.
very well for you so far. Going back to your time in Kitchener, it didn't go unnoticed how well that you played because you got the selection to play for Team Canada in the prestigious Hlinka Gretzky Cup.
Mhm.
Can you tell us what you remember about that tournament and the road you took to winning eventual gold?
That's the biggest thing I remember is winning a gold medal. I mean, that's what you go there for, and especially um, wearing the maple leaf on your chest is really special. In that team, we had a lot of great players, and I remember just it was like a 2 or 3 week camp, and then right into the tournament. So it was like a month and a half of the summer of you aren't training, but you're playing and practicing. So I mean, it was a big commitment, but it was awesome because we got to play hockey and we were kind of in a little bubble where, we played for gold. So just winning gold and, winning that tournament made it all, so awesome because we had dedicated so much time and sacrificed a lot. But I mean, it was a huge honor. Anytime you can represent your country, you definitely don't want to take it for granted. But for us, I mean, going on to win the gold was it was a great feeling. I mean, you spend that time and you play those games and to cap it off with a gold medal is really special. And, you make a bond with the guys on the team that you create and share it to get forever. So, I mean, guys in that team that you still keep in contact with, and it's just a special thing.
Yeah, yeah, and you
Mhm.
mentioned the roster. Like when you go through the names, I mean, it's an incredible bunch of players. You've got Lafreniere, I think Cousins, Bo Byram, if I remember correctly, as well. It must have been a real pleasure to play with players of that quality. And you must have, it must have given you a lot of confidence as well, because to be on a roster with those guys and really belong there, as you did, your play showed. I mean, you did what you said at the beginning of the program. It was strong play. I was reading reports of the way that you kind of conducted yourself on the ice. It must have been great.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we had a team like that, and being able to play on that team and play a role in that team was a huge honor and a confidence builder going into the next year with the preparing for an NHL draft was awesome. And I mean, winning a gold, everyone wants a winner, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you also were selected to play in the World Juniors that season too, with a number of guys from that team. What do you remember about that tournament?
Yeah, the U18s, it was in, I remember that was my first time in Europe. Uh,
Oh, really?
yeah, it was in Sweden, but we had a camp in Finland. So I was in Finland and Sweden for the first time and first time in Europe. It was pretty cool just seeing the different, kind of life that, is the difference between North America and the European lifestyle. It was awesome. I mean, it was after the season two, so it was awesome to we got eliminated from the playoffs and we had the opportunity to go play more hockey. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, what else could you want? Just be able to play hockey and playing against some good teams. And it was the last chance to play before, the draft would happen in June. So being able to showcase yourself and play for Team Canada was a huge bonus and a huge plus. And it was really cool. Unfortunately, we didn't do as well in that tournament, but, nonetheless, I created a lot of memories and, very fortunate again to represent the country.
What was your first impression of Europe when you arrived?
To be honest, I don't. I remember the outlets were weird because I had to bring an adapter. I was like, "What do I got to bring an adapter for?" But trying to plug in my old one and it wasn't fitting. I look and I get down there and I see you got to plug in the adapter and find the right one with the. So that was a pretty eye-opening thing. Where I'm like, "What's with the different adapters? Like, why do we got different ones?" I thought it was a
Yeah.
universal thing because I had never known. I didn't even know that was a thing. So being sheltered in North America, I wasn't aware of different things that could be European and I know different countries have different outlets too. So
Yeah, yeah, it's do you know what? It's true though, you say that. It's more like when you move abroad, it's actually the little things that surprise you more than like
Mm,
the bigger changes, because you're kind
right,
of already expecting there to be something pretty big when it
right,
changes. But it's like those small things, and those are the things that stick with you actually.
right. Like another one would be on these water bottles where the cap doesn't come off.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, like these are the little things that are different, but they stick out because you're like, well, that's different. I wouldn't even thought about something like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. And there's plenty of things that even differ across the continent, like me being from England.
Mm,
I can't think of any. Well, of course, the big one is the driving, of course, but it's
right,
like when you get behind the wheel of the car, if you're changing gear, you're sort of like stroking the window because you're used to it being on the left side. So
right,
instead of like it's all reversed and you're there
right.
trying to change gear and you're thinking, oh my God. So there are so many little adaptations that you have to make, and
Hmm,
it's not necessarily those huge things that
right.
really.
100%. Like, sun is shining. There's obviously the buildings are a lot of beautiful buildings in Europe with a lot of history in them, especially here in Hradec. We have some cool looking, buildings that are, hundreds of years old, but it's the little things, you're right, that make
Yeah,
a
and
difference.
even like when I've been out in forests here, like seeing the animals are even slightly different to the UK. So like we don't really have wild boar there.
Okay.
And like here, everyone was saying, hey, you can't go to the forest at this time, or if you do, you've got to be really careful because there's loads of wild boar there. And I'm thinking, that's crazy because it looks the same as like the British forest, where there's like no predators out there that really do you any harm.
Right.
And now I'm being told, yeah, you got to watch out for this, you got to prepare for that. And it's like, wow.
I didn't even know there was wild boar.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
So apparently you want to avoid them in mating season in particular, I was
Okay.
told. So you went back to Kitchener for your draft year. You mentioned it before, and you had a really, really solid year offensively as well as defensively. I think you had 29 points from 63 games. And the Devils took notice of you and took you in 82nd overall in the 2019 NHL draft. What was
Mhm.
the draft process like?
For me, it was there was the combine about a month before, so
Mhm.
getting the opportunity to go to the combine and kind of talk to teams, and they have their draft interviews where the teams interview the players. So being able to um, meet different teams and they kind of get to see what you are as a person and kind of who you are, because obviously they can watch film and scout games, but they don't really know who you are until you meet with them and talk to them, and obviously the strength part of the combine too with the testing.
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool to be a part of. And then the draft in June was pretty special. It was in Vancouver. So my family and I were able to go out there um, for the draft and be able to experience it together. And it was just a dream come true. I mean, like I said earlier, growing up, wanting to play hockey and watching the Leafs, a dream is to, get drafted into the NHL and be a part of an organization. As a kid, I wanted to be the Leafs, but it ended up being the Devils, and I was, just as happy to be a part of an organization and drafted. So it was really awesome to have my family there and be able to experience it with them because, I mean, it was a family sacrifice. Everybody in my family had to do their part and allow me to achieve my goals. And there's a lot of sacrifices made along the way. So just being able to share with them, it meant just as much to me for them as it meant for myself.
Yeah. And were you nervous going into the draft day? How did you feel?
I wasn't too nervous because I mean, what's done was done. I mean, what happened was going to happen. I mean, there's nothing else to do. The
Mhm.
hockey was played, the interviews were had, the combine had happened. So it was just a matter of, you know, who and when. So I wasn't really nervous, just because at that point in time, there was nothing, you could really do to change anything, right?
Yeah. And
And
did you
then
know that the Devils were interested in you, like, or were
there
there a
was
number of teams, or?
There was a couple teams with my agent just talking about who had more interest compared to other teams, and I think they were one of the teams that he had an idea was interested, and it ended up being them. So I mean, thankful for them, and thankful for the whole process, and it was awesome.
And what was it like to, well, what was the experience like when you first went into the Prudential Center, walking through the door as a New Jersey Devil, going into the
Mhm.
training camp?
It was cool. I mean, it was pretty surreal to just be there. I mean, up until then, the only really interaction you have with them is kind of watching them on TV. But and then you go on a camp and you're wearing the jerseys and you're on the ice. It was really cool and really eye opening. It was kind of special to just be a part of an NHL organization. Kind of um, what you had dreamed of since you were a kid is kind of finally starting to kind of happen. So I mean, it was really cool and really special. And I mean, those are the two probably words I put is really cool and really special.
Yeah, and I think the fans really took you to heart, especially with some of your kind of camp performances, because you went out there and you asserted yourself. And I think there was kind of a few clips flying around of a couple of fights that you had dropping the gloves. Do you remember
Mhm.
anything about those games?
Yeah, that was in the prospects tournament. I think we were losing, and it was in the third period. And I was just, a competitor, and just wasn't happy. And another guy on the other team on Buffalo was we were just in there in a heat in the moment thing, and we ended up fighting, and it was pretty. It went. I don't know why. I mean, it was a prospects tournament, but it went
Yeah.
pretty. It went kind of big on Twitter that there was a fight, but I mean, it was just part of the experience, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and I think that guy that you dropped the gloves with, he plays for Litvinov, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Mate Picard.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. He's in Litvinov. He came down to Brno a week ago, and he was up to the same tricks again. So I expect that he was trying to fire up his team ready for the playoffs. So
Mhm.
maybe you'll meet again in this off season, or not, sorry, post season, and we'll
Right.
see round two. We never know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I see.
Cool. And the following season, you went back to play with Kitchener and you
Mhm.
showed a lot of consistency because you recorded similar numbers, but you upped your kind of underlying metrics, the plus minuses. So you're really sort of polishing your game off.
Mhm.
Um, what were the biggest lessons that shaped your playing style from your youth and junior hockey days going into that kind of AHL next environment?
I think I was very fortunate enough to play for Jay McKee was the head coach and Dennis Wideman was the D coach. So I mean, two guys, like I said, had played in the NHL, but different kind of games in the NHL. Where McKee was kind of a stay-at-home guy, and Dennis Wideman was point guy, power play guy. So just being able to get advice and learn from both aspects of different kinds of players, I think really helped me. And I'm very fortunate that I was able to have those mentors when I was really shaping, what kind of player I am. And I think just the trust that they had in me to give me opportunities and just kind of develop and play was, huge. Just having trust from guys like that. And I know McKee went on to, win a championship in Hamilton. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what a great coach that he was. I mean, really understands each player on an individual basis. And, Dennis Weidman, who I still talk to this day. I mean, I go back and train in Kitchener Waterloo and he's a local there. So I bounce ideas and questions off him in the summer and just, try and keep in touch with him. And if I need advice, I can still go to a guy like him. I mean, they're just awesome people and awesome coach. And I think they really helped me kind of discover who I was as a player. Um, and kind of create an identity to prepare me for what was to come.
Yeah, that's really great that you keep in contact with them as well, because that really shows they care about you like beyond their kind of contractual obligation. They
Right.
really care about you as a person and as a
Mhm.
player. So that does speak volumes about, why such individuals were at the top of the NHL and now, as you say, going on to win championships as coaches.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to guys making the jump from the OHL to the AHL?
I think it would just be to be yourself and try and be a sponge. Just take in as much information and advice and just kind of really enjoy it. Just be open to everything and really enjoy the transition and the process. And I think it's a great time, and you're fortunate enough to make that transition and to go play pro hockey. But being a sponge and taking advice um, and just always staying true to yourself and being you. I think that would be my advice.
Yeah, perfect. I think that sounds like great advice. And you moved on to play for Binghamton, and then, of course, Utica, where you were with the other Devils prospects in the system. Shimon Nemets is a name that a lot of people in this part of the world will be familiar with. What was it that made his game kind of stand out so much at AHL level? Because whenever he's down there, he's producing, he's playing really well.
Yeah, I mean, when he came in, I think he was 18 years old. So
Mm.
he was a really young player, but he could always, move the puck and move well. And he's just, there's a reason he got drafted, where he got drafted and kind of, it wasn't really a shock that he kind of put up the numbers that he did. I mean, he's a great player. And, sure, obviously he's hasn't made that full-time transition yet, but for a player like that, it's not a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. He's
Mhm.
a great player and he's still so young. So I think, I know he's a great player. He's a good guy too. His English wasn't great, but what he could communicate, he was an awesome guy and, just really wanted to develop and kind of be a better hockey player. So it's something that you could admire, even at someone who is such a young age, where their dedication and their commitment to getting better and wanting to play at the next level. I mean, he's a great player and a great person.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that he needs patience because you see because he's been in the organization for a while and he's still not kind of nailed down that starting position that people are kind of looking to trade him off. Like on Twitter, you see a lot of this. And for me, I think the perspective that like it's a unique perspective that you'll have now from living in the Czech Republic, you can probably understand like why his adaptation is taking a bit longer. He's from sort of a relatively small town in Slovakia. He didn't speak English. He's kind of come into North America for the very first time. There's so many things,
Mm,
not even on the ice, but off the ice that you need to kind of have sympathy with him for. It's like he's got to learn a language, he's got to learn a new system. It's everything is so different
right.
when you're 18, you're still so young. And when that ability is there, like he has, I think, just giving him that, he probably needs an arm around the shoulder and just given that to feel trusted, really, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's more than just a hockey player. They're human beings who have to go through, the different challenges of life. Like you said, moving away at a young age to a different continent. I'm not sure if, he had lived at home up until then, but having to go find an apartment and a car and, cook for yourself. I don't know if that was a transition for him, but it's like you said, it's a transition period for everybody. At the end of the day, people are more than just hockey players, and for him, I think, he's a great player. Like I said, it's a matter of it when, not if. So for him, I mean, be no doubt if he's there in a week, a month, a year, but he's a great player and he'll get there. And
Yeah, he'll definitely make it. I totally agree with you. I think that it's just those small little things need to click, and over time we'll see it.
right, especially you look at their decor. I mean, they got some good players too. So I mean, it all it takes is an opportunity.
Mhm.
With the deadline, who knows what'll happen? In the future. So.
And do you have any stories from your AHL days, like any games that stand out, any road trips, any particular things?
I mean, just being able to, that's the first time where I wasn't in school while I was playing hockey. I mean, in the OHL, I was in high school, and then after high school, I was taking, university classes. So just if it wasn't hockey, it was living, just life. Didn't really have any other, worries or kind of obligations. So I think that was a cool part for me, was just fully being able to play hockey for, a living, I guess, and just kind of solely focus on that, and be able to enjoy it with, other players and other guys in the same situation where, um, if you weren't at the rink, you were, just kind of hanging out. So it would force you to, make memories and bonds and friendships. And I think that was a really cool thing, was the bonds and the friendships and the friends you make along the way.
That sounds great. And what were some of the key takeaways from your time within the Devils organization overall?
I think just always, being me. I think that was the biggest thing, was, um, being true to yourself, and just kind of sticking with who I was. And I think they really helped, allow players to kind of be who they were. And, in a good way, just allowing you to just kind of be yourself, and whatever happens, happens. And, not trying to, make you somebody that you weren't, or a player that you weren't. It was really a good thing to just be able to, kind of do your own thing, and as long within the team's systems and stuff like that, but just to be yourself. I think that was a big thing.
The fans actually sent a few messages to you from a Facebook group called Devils All Day, All Night. It's one of the sort of biggest fan pages for the New Jersey Devils. They all sent you a load of warm wishes. Do you have a message for them?
I mean, they were awesome when I was there. I'd get messages on Twitter and Instagram sometimes, just from, you'd see the account name with something Jersey and stuff like that. Just like always like, hey Vooks, we love you, and stuff like that. So that was always pretty cool. And I mean, I know their fan base is an awesome fan base. They're very passionate. So yeah, I hope they're all doing well. People who support me, thank you. And yeah, I mean, I hope for success in the future. I mean, I know that fan base um, had a dynasty in the early 2000s, so I think it could be the start of, kind of a new one in the next couple of years. So, I'm hoping for good things for them.
Yeah, the building blocks are there, and
Mm,
it's just a matter of everything fitting together. But it seems
right.
as though the steps are being taken.
Definitely think they're on the right path. Yeah.
Yeah. After your contract with the Devils ended, you signed with Pelicans Lahti in the
Mm.
Finnish Liga. Can you talk us through how that move materialized?
Yeah, I think for me it was uh, basically, it was when I was up with the Devils, just looking at different options, and being able to, go live in Europe and play in Finland was a cool and intriguing opportunity, and one that I decided to go with. And I mean, it was an awesome experience. My, second time in Europe at this point, but I'm just being able to, go play a new style of hockey, and live in a new place. It was a really cool experience, and I'm, grateful for it. that I was able to go and kind of play and start a new chapter.
Yeah, and was it a step outside of your comfort zone, or was it something that you were comfortable with, given your European roots, given the fact that you'd played in Europe in the tournament before, like you mentioned?
It was definitely out of my comfort zone. I think just being on a 6 hour time change from, or 7 hours in Finland from, everybody I knew,
Yeah.
friends, family, it was definitely a little bit of an adjustment, but I mean, it was one that I was open to, and made the most of, I hope. Um, but it was definitely a cool thing, and I wouldn't change it. Uh,
Mhm.
but it was definitely an adjustment for sure.
Yeah, and what was the biggest adaptation you had to make on the ice?
On the ice, I think it was the style of play. I mean, it was a lot of the way I think of it is in the AHL, it's a lot of north south, and
Hmm.
in Finland, it's a lot of east west as well. So just playing as a 5 man, like controlled breakouts kind of thing, and
Yeah.
kind of possess the puck. Where in the American League, it's a lot of get on the forecheck and kind of establish an offensive game that way. Where this Finland was a little different because of the bigger ice and just the way that the Finnish way of playing, the Finnish style of hockey was definitely different than North American. You even see that in international tournaments when you see the two different styles and kind of how they combat each other, but they look different. The two teams playing completely different systems, but it makes for good hockey games.
Yes, it does. It does. And when you see those two styles clash, it really is. That's what I love about your international hockey is that you see it's there's so many different ways in which you can play and so many different styles that suit different players, and it's really nice to kind of dive into that technical side of things.
Right, because you look at like a World Juniors or stuff like that where there's not one right way to do it because
No.
every year there's a different winner with a different style of hockey, whether it's the US, Canada, Finland, Sweden, like they all play a little bit of a different style, but they all works just the same. They all win tournaments, they all do well, they beat each other, so there is no correct way. It's just the way different countries do it.
Yeah, it is, and it was interesting to see, the Czech Republic go all the way this summer and win
Right.
it because they kind of stumbled across a formula that seemed to be that it just really clicked. It really worked, especially when they added the guys later on, like Nechas and Pasternyak
Right.
and Zacha. It was really, really special to watch because you had guys that play in the Extraliga alongside, bona fide NHL stars, and it
Mhm.
just all clicked together. It worked. You saw like how they played for each other, the effort, the intensity, and the energy. It was crazy to kind of think that the top scorer in the Extraliga, Beranek, he was playing on the fourth line as just like an energy guy, trying
Right.
to get into the corners, and Fleck the same from Bruno, and
Mhm.
the adaptability that you see within the systems, it's really interesting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like that's the great thing about hockey is like, especially like a national team or like an international thing where you look at the four nations that just happened.
Yeah.
Everyone's a superstar on their own team, but someone's got to be on the fourth line in a tournament like that. So, like you said, with the Czech team, you know, he's a top scorer in the Extraliga, but when he's in the national team playing with Pasternak, the
Yeah.
role might change a little bit, but being able to adapt and play for your country, it's really cool and really special to see like that transition happen.
Yeah, and that's how you can tell like the really, really like top players, I think, if they're able to kind of just fit into so many
Mhm.
different roles, that it shows their understanding of the game must be on another level, really. And did you get to experience the sauna culture in Finland?
Yeah, that was a cool little change. Was when I moved into my apartment, I had a sauna in my bathroom. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
yeah, that was really cool. It's a very common thing in Finland, but being able to just jump in a sauna and then go in the shower and go to bed was a routine that I enjoyed and I definitely took advantage of. It was the sauna culture there is it's a great culture and I really enjoy kind of the saunas and the cold plunge type deal. But yeah, the sauna culture there is really cool. And if you go to like a public place, they have it down packed, like
Mhm.
really intense saunas, and then the locals get it really hot. Like uncomfortably hot for a guy like me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. And did it help with your recovery and things like that, do you think?
I think so. I mean, I would usually every night I would take a, 10, 15 minute sauna and then have a cold shower and like get into bed and just feel really kind of refreshed before bed and kind of wake up with energy. So I think so. I mean, whether it was placebo or not, I felt good.
Yeah. And when you were there in Pelicans, you played with, I think, a guy who has to be one of the best, if not the best, import player in kind of in Europe over, oh, it must be the last 15 or so years. A guy called Ryan Lash.
Mm,
How was it to play with him? Because he's like every single year, it doesn't matter like how old he gets, the numbers still come out at like 50 points, and
yeah.
he's so creative. Like I saw him play in the Champions Hockey League. I think it was against Brno. It must have now been 8 years ago. And it was a real joy to see how that guy saw the game. I mean, it was really, really special.
Yeah, he's a wizard with the puck. That guy in the power play, I don't think there's a different guy you'd want with the puck on a power play other than that guy. I mean, I heard a little bit about him before I had gotten there, but I wasn't really familiar with, kind of European hockey over the last, couple of years. But just kind of getting prepared to go into the season, was kind of looking at who's on the team, and I, stumbled upon him, and I heard from different players like, "Hey, wait till you see this Lash guy." And then looking up and I looking at his records he's got in the CHL, and he's not even close. The second guy's not even close to him, like with
Yeah.
points and stuff like that and goal. Like it's insane. And then just playing with him, like not the fastest guy, not the biggest, but he's a wizard with the puck. Like that guy can pass the puck to anybody, like through your skate holder. He'll put it on your tape, and all you gotta do is put it in the empty net. Like what he
Yeah.
can do with the puck is incredible. I mean, he's been doing it for his whole career in Europe. Like you said, he's probably, I mean, the best import player in European hockey history. I mean, I don't know who else. Like, if you just look at his CHL numbers alone, best on best of different countries, he blows everybody else out of the water.
Yeah, he does, and that's what it's interesting that you say. Like, he's not the biggest, he's not the quickest. I think that's
Yeah.
why he's continued going in the way he has, because it's something, it's a different intrinsic skill that can't really be lost. That kind of hand-eye coordination, that incredible read of the game. It doesn't kind of matter how old you get, really. I
Mhm.
think, it's of course the legs are a part of it, but I remember feeling the same way when I saw Martin Erat play in the Extraliga. It was for a long time in the NHL. And even when he was in his kind of later years, I guess approaching 40, on the power play, it was he knew how to create space. He knew exactly who to give the puck to at what time, and everything was so crisp. And with
Mhm.
guys like that, it's just a joy to watch.
Yeah, for him, it's just his knowledge and his IQ of the game and being able to execute under pressure. And I mean, what an awesome guy too. I mean, he was one of the other few North Americans there, so I kind of really got close to him and just talked to him a lot. And he's a great player, and he really enjoys the game and really loves playing and learning. And he's still, however many years into his career, like still trying to get better and watching film and trying to help you out. And he's a great guy, and I still talk to him. Kind of a daily. We chat and go back and forth. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Mhm.
great. Yeah. And that you mentioned that he was one of the kind of only North Americans. There was actually a fair contingent of Czech players on that roster at the beginning of the year in particular. Did they ever recommend the Extraliga to you?
Not so much recommended, but I would hear them talking, and me kind of trying to be a sponge, just to ask questions here and there about everybody, Sweden, Czech, even that was Norway. We had a Norwegian player who's a great guy, great player. Just
Mm.
kind of getting information and kind of trying to be like a sponge. And the Czech guys were, really especially had really good English. So I was able to communicate and kind of create relationships with them. And so, I mean, from different players, different guys from different cities too, within Czech Republic with different
Yeah.
teams in new cities. So it was a cool mix to hear the, different aspects of different teams and kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, and of course, one of those guys, he's also moved back to the Extraliga, Libor Zabransky as well.
Mhm.
Did you play on a line with him at all, or?
Yeah. when he was still there, we were actually D partners.
Yeah.
So kind of, became closer with him than kind of the other ones just based on, playing together and kind of talking through games and just got into a relationship where we would just talk about, random things and then asking him about because I know he's from Brno and had played there and connections there. So just ask him about, what's the Czech league like, what's Brno like, and kind of ask about the league, and he would answer my questions and kind of, just kind of talk about it just in passing conversation. But it was, great knowledge and hindsight to, where I'm at now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it must have helped you and it must have encouraged you to come to the Extraliga. So that's great. And of course, we talk about Hradec Králové. You moved very close to the trade or transfer deadline. When
Mhm.
did you first hear of Hradec's interest, and how did the move kind of all happen?
I'm not too sure what happened behind the scenes, but it happened fairly quickly. I mean, it was probably within 24 hours where um, I would just talking to my agent about that around that time and um, came up with the opportunity to move to Hradec and play for Mountfield and just going back and forth with my agent and family obviously made the decision to come play here and um, try and make a little push here in the playoffs and kind of fit a need that, they were kind of needing. So, I mean, it was kind of a crazy 24 hours. We had a game in Pelicans that I played in while this was all happening, which is kind of crazy. And then the transfer deadline was on the Friday, and I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday where it all happened. I had to fly out the next day and it did finally go through. It was just kind of a crazy 24 hours, but I mean, it was awesome. And I'm super thankful for the opportunity and I was really excited and it's been awesome so far and I really enjoy it here and it's I'm, grateful for it and hopefully going into the playoffs we have a couple days off here for the bye but we could do something cool and special.
Yeah, and you've settled in on the ice very well. I mean, you 7 wins and 4 losses in 11 games, and that really helped Mountfield end the season like really strongly. I mean, you came second overall, which it was game after game. You were grinding out some wins here and there, and other nights you were kind of doing putting distance between yourselves and other teams as well. So you were finding different ways to win, which is very encouraging going into a playoff situation.
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure I said it earlier, but we just have, I think, a really deep team and a really close group of guys too. I mean, amongst the imports and the Czech guys and the other European guys are just a really close team. And kind of one goal in mind was to win hockey games to position ourselves for the playoffs as best as we could, which I think we did. And then going into the playoffs, just having a strong end to the season with confidence that we can compete with anybody in a 7 game series. You know, let's be the let's be the reason something happens or doesn't. I mean, let's put it in our hands now. So I think that was really encouraging for us as a group is just being able to, beat some of those top teams towards the end to gain that confidence going into the playoffs that, we've done it before, we could do it again. I think that's our mindset.
Yeah, and you described your style of play at the top of the show, but I think that your style in particular is really suits Mountfield's style in this season and previous years. They're always a kind of physical, unpleasant, formidable opponent where nothing comes easy. You
Mm,
know when Mountfield comes to town that you're not going to get any easy buys that game.
right.
And I when I've seen probably half of your games on TV, and I saw one live in the stadium. I just think the fit is really good.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I think that with the opportunity I've been given, um, I think the way we try and play is kind of, what kind of player I am, like you said. And I think just trying to do my part to, help the team advance and do well and win games. And, I'm really excited for the playoffs coming up.
Yeah, and how does the Extraliga differ from the Finnish Liga?
It's like I said with North American, it's just little small details of, little system things where, instead of north south or more east west, but it's like it's hard to put a word on it because for me, like I just try and play, my game where stay true to myself and But for here, it's definitely more physical, I think, and more north-south, closer to a North American style than, a Finnish style where it's a lot of five-man breakouts where, we're stretch pucks, quick ups and stuff like that. I think that's a big difference is, back to the north-south, east-west thing.
Yeah. And what's it been like linking up with Connor Bunnaman again? You mentioned him before,
Mm.
but has it
It's been
been?
good. When I got here, he kind of, helped me out a lot the first, few weeks, just getting settled in and um, taking me out around the city and showing me stuff. Him and his fiance have been really great. Just kind of showing me the ropes and letting me get accustomed to life here in Hradec in the Czech Republic. And it was nice to have a familiar face going into a new locker room so late into a season.
Yeah. And
Mm.
how have you adapted to life in the Czech Republic? Have you kind of learned any of the language yet?
The language, not so much. I know a couple words, Dobry, Chow, and stuff,
Mhm.
just small things like that. But really just trying to invest myself in the culture. I mean, going to, for walks daily, just trying to, see different parts of the city and, go for coffee and kind of see what the, kind of the vibes are around the city and what the Czech life is like. And I'm really enjoying it. And the people here are very friendly and it's been awesome.
Yeah. And the playoffs begin tonight at the time of recording in the preliminary round. I guess the puck probably is dropped on a couple of the games already. How's your preparation going?
It's good. Because we won't play until I think it's the Friday or next Saturday, but
Mhm.
kind of watching closely of who wins and loses in this play-in round to see who we could potentially face. And we had a day off yesterday and today, just kind of hitting the reset button and get back to practicing and sharpening the tools and kind of getting ready to make a big playoff push and kind of rounding out our game and checking dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
For sure. I think that also having a bit of downtime as well to kind of recuperate and having that time to, prepare for what comes next is a big advantage. And that's why that race for fourth, the top four was so hotly contested.
Right. Yeah, I think that was a big thing is towards the end of the year is, now putting ourselves in a second, we have home ice advantage until, the finals against Sparta, if that were to, come to fruition. But we have home ice and in the rounds to start, which is I think a huge advantage and what you play all year for. Right.
Yeah, it is. And we can end by just asking some quick fire questions. They've been sent in by fans previously and fans from New Jersey as well. So, what's the toughest part about being a defenseman?
I think not so rapid. I got to think about it. I think just knowing that as a forward, if you make a mistake, you got a D and a goalie to bail you out. If you make a
Yeah,
mistake, you only got the goalie.
yeah. And goalies actually in the Czech Republic, this league in the Extraliga, are like really strong. It's kind of we've seemed to have hit like a very good um, season or hit a golden era for Czech goaltending because you look at
Mhm.
like the World Championship roster, there was three like kind of legit starting NHLers. But you look at like the pipelines, there's loads of young Czech guys coming through, and you play with a Slovak guy, I think mainly. Stanislav Shkovanek.
Yep.
He's been, I mean, probably a player that's been at the top of his game in Slovakia, and he's adapted this year and been excellent. How is it having a goalie of that caliber behind you?
He's been a stud for us. I mean, he's he's bailed I think everybody out a few times since I've been here. He's a gamer for sure. I mean,
Mhm.
he's aggressive in the net, and I mean, it's very comforting being a D man knowing that on most nights he's there behind you, just ready to make a save and do what it takes to keep the puck out of the net. So it's a very comforting thing knowing that we have a goalie like that. He's been
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, he is, and he's always really reliable for the national team as well for Slovakia. So it's not a surprise to me that he's come into the league and taken it by storm. What is the most underrated skill a defenseman needs to have?
I think hand eye, being able to um, break up pucks and passes and quickly just with the forwards trying to make quick plays, being able to, kind of have a good stick and good hand eye to be able to, you know, tip the puck or deflect it and not let a clean play go through. I think that's a very underrated thing.
Yeah.
Just being able to disrupt a play just for enough time to recover or allow somebody else to get back and stuff like that.
Yeah, just the small little things that it
Mhm.
helps out with. Good. And who's the funniest teammate you've played with? There might be a few, I'm guessing. But anyone that you'd like to kind of mention?
The funniest teammate, like career,
Yeah, in your career.
Tice Thompson's up there. I played with him in Utica. Zach Senishin is up there. Um, Patrick Bartasak, I played with in Finland. He's a Czech guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty funny guy. I think I'll go with those three off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, and I'll get a text if they watch this and like, hey, what about me? But those are the
Yeah.
three I'll go off the top of my head.
And how about in the Hradec locker room? Anybody who's a kind of a bit of a jokester?
Kev's a little bit of a jokester. We like to crack it on a bit.
Yeah.
We share some laughs together for sure.
Cool. And if you could trade places with one teammate for a day, who would it be and why?
You ever seen Ted Lasso?
I have. Yeah, yeah.
It's like with Jamie Tarr, he's like, Coach, why do I want to be anybody else? I'm me. Yeah, if I could trade with one guy, I think I would trade with the guy who played in Utica, Riley Walsh. He went to Harvard, so he's got a Harvard degree. So I think I'd trade place with him just to say I have a Harvard degree for a day.
Yeah, clever guy. What did he study there? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you. I don't think it was anything crazy.
Yeah, cool. And if you could trade with a Hradec teammate, is there anybody?
I think I would be um, Patches. Thomas Pavelka. He's a captain. Just a Czech guy, kind of a local hero. So I think it'd be him just to experience, Czech life as a Czech player.
Yeah, yeah, and be the leader of the team you play for, in the
Mhm.
room. So,
Right.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. It's been great. I've had a lot of fun, and I wish you all the best for the playoffs.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome.
No problem, and I'll catch you around the rink sometime soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
See you soon.
Take care.